this is important. This is super dishonest.
I'm
Again,
sorry.
the level of dishonesty is baffling.
I'll back it up a little bit here.
North Texas.
You couldn't even say that in like 1970.
So the unfortunate side effect of the cartoonish levels of racism coming out of the University of North Texas this month is that this whole thing has turned into a referendum on Heinrich Schenker, who, one, you probably just heard of today, and two, was just some racist anti-Semitic guy living in Europe at the turn of the 20th century, and let's be honest, he was not unique in that regard. The fact...
Okay, so there's lots to unpack in that statement. First of all, calling him anti-Semitic is baffling.
Why don't they say racist Jewish anti-Semitic guy just to prove how ridiculous it is?
Right. And he wasn't racist. He was nationalistically bigoted. Maybe the problem is that there's not really a word for that so much in American culture at the moment. But so first of all, him calling him anti-Semitic shows that he has very little understanding or familiarity with the Schenker guy, who apparently I did more research for the stream on Schenker than this guy did for this fucking video. So, you know, kudos to you, Mr. How dare he quote Wikipedia? Oh, you did so much research on this fucking topic, you idiot. But so that aside, okay, this is where it's very dishonest. He says, oh, the unfortunate side effect of this terrible Timothy guy and these other people in Texas responding is that now the conversation has switched to Schenker, who's unimportant. This is so fucking dishonest because everything that Adam Neely is talking about comes directly from Yule's paper. Yule's paper is primarily about fucking Schenker. That's the entire point of it. He sets up the theory that he sets up the idea that music theory is part of this white racial framing, and his evidence for that is Schenker. The entire argument, the linchpin of the argument is fucking Schenker. For him to pretend like it's so bad that they have to focus on Schenker is the height of fucking dishonesty, or shows that Adam Neely doesn't even understand what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, Yule was targeting Schenker in the paper. That's the whole genesis of this drama. Yes. Yeah. Crazy.
The fact that Fox News desperately wants to turn this into cancel culture run amok is just, it's just stupid.
Phil wants to quote unquote.
He's literally participating in cancel culture.
I know. How are these people? How do they sleep at night? Like, I can't imagine trying to go after somebody for having a different opinion than me.
Right.
Like, I just can't imagine. And to totally like fight dirty pool style through all this. Like, how do they sleep at night? I'm serious. It's so evil.
Well, while simultaneously pretending it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Quote, cancel Schenker. I don't, never said it. Kind of said exactly the opposite at the end of my long article. Phil wants us to throw away Schubert and never play Schubert anymore. Nope, never said it, wouldn't say it. Schubert was a very interesting composer. I like quite a bit of his music. It's not about canceling anybody. It's about addressing difficult issues directly, forthrightly. We're going to talk about it openly. We're going to talk.
Then Adam Neely has done a terrible job explaining your ideas, because he really makes it sound like that they should cancel Schenker and they should cancel the Timothy guy and all these other people.
Yeah, and like to say that you're talking about this forthrightly is just offensive to the word forthrightly.
And I would say that is inherently dishonest to be like, I'm not saying we should cancel them. I'm just saying that this is all super racist and that it promotes white supremacy in the racial white framework of America. But I'm not saying we should not do it. Like, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Talk about white supremacy, the roots in white supremacy. I mean, that's a statement of fact. It's not under question.
Yeah.
Music theory.
Wait.
Yeah, that's totally.
Statement of fact. What is this statement of fact that he said?
He's saying that
rightly. We're going to talk about it openly. We're going to talk about white supremacy, the roots in white supremacy. I mean, that's a statement of fact. It's not.
So it's a statement of fact that music theory is rooted in white supremacy.
Yeah, that's the statement of fact that he's making.
Right. When you studied
citation needed.
When you studied music theory at Captain, did they talk about race at all?
Not in the slightest. they didn't. I mean, when we are sitting here and we're going through different analysis of different chords and harmonies and melodies and passing, leading, and all these things, it was never. It was never. This is the way white people analyze music, or this is the way
Oh my
that
God.
white people play music. It never. It was never a conversation of race came up.
Did they ever say in those theory classes that this is the only way or the best way to analyze all music?
They said, well, I would have to say that no, because they never analyzed any other genre of music with it. The only music that was studied was 18th century classical music, like he says in the beginning.
Right.
And I did have many conversations with classical players about how all classical music is superior, and jazz players about how all jazz music is simply the most superior genre.
Right.
But it was never, it's superior because of anything to do with the race connected to it.
Well, I think what's important is that the teachers, they never, like if your teacher said, this is the way all music must be analyzed, this is the superior musical analysis, then you can say, okay, well, maybe that seems a little bigoted, but that didn't happen. That wasn't even brought up in class.
Yeah, all we analyzed was we only analyzed the music that the analysis was structured for.
Right.
We never took that analysis to other music to prove that it was bad, because that's dumb. You shouldn't do that. You can use another analysis system to prove that other music is genius.
Right.
Question.
Yeah.
Music theory is historically rooted in white supremacy. The music theorists said it themselves in the 19th century, quite openly. It wasn't.
Okay, that's racist, because the music theorist Schenker didn't say that. He said it was rooted in German supremacy against the degenerate Americans and white Europeans and British and French people. So no.
A secret. It only became a secret when white supremacy became untenable in the mid-20th century. You couldn't be white supremacist anymore. It had to go underground.
Part 7 diminished.
See?
Coda. So where do we begin
Underground.
here?
Yeah.
Well, the first step is in acknowledging that music theory is profoundly Eurocentric and white racially framed, and we already kind of have done.
Wait, those are two very different things. Eurocentric and white racially framed.
Yeah, what is Eurocentric? I mean, they were all
Like, you
killing
could-
each other for 200 years.
Right. And again, it wouldn't even be from this video. I don't know how it is, but from what this video shows, it's not even Eurocentric. It's German-centric.
Yeah.
Done that. In the beginning of this video, I asked you to replace the phrase music theory in popular media with the harmonic style of 18th century European musicians, and hopefully that got your wheels turning a little bit. Now, sometimes people genuinely are not referring to that style when they say music theory, but more often than not, they actually are. There's nothing wrong with the harmonic style of 18th century European musicians. I like the music of Bach, it's a big part of me. That does not mean that it has to be the default. The music theory of Heinrich Schenker also might be very useful in understanding the music of Bach and Mozart and Beethoven, and honestly, the musical notation looks freaking sweet. But that doesn't mean that his worldview has to be the default. And in fact, let's not adopt any of his worldview.
This is so this entire video is just because he doesn't like that it's called music theory instead of 18th century classical musical
analysis. That it's called music theory and not the analysis, and also that when you get to college, it's a required course to study this music.
Right.
Yeah, the syllabus.
He's saying that, you know, to try to make it in a more positive frame, that you should get there and you should study other types of analysis and other types. His problem is that when you get there, you have to study this. Even if you're a jazz kid, you don't give a shit about, you know, all of your figured bass and all this stuff, but you're still required to study it. But like, I would want to argue that that's pretty true amongst most subjects of college. When you get there, they force you to study things you don't have interest in. Mm-hmm. They believe it's important.
Right.
And maybe we could shrink the amount of study we do on 18th century classical music, because it could be too much. But should we I can agree with some of those statements.
It just doesn't have to be framed racially.
It doesn't have to be framed racially, like, because we shouldn't minimize it because it's only studying one analysis and one type of music. We should minimize it because it's teaching white supremacy to college students. If we could just take that section out, take all of the race out and say it's not as useful and it only studies one style of music, it can't be applied to contemporary music, then all these music students are going to be so important, be like, yeah, I hated studying that, and it's useless. It would jump on board so much easier.
It would be like if, because in English class, there's an overemphasis on Shakespeare, I would argue.
Yes.
That is stupid, because you shouldn't really ever read Shakespeare plays. They're plays. You should watch them. This would be like, 50 years from now, you read the script to Pulp Fiction, right? Like in an English class, you'd be like, why are we reading a script? It should be watched. But there's reasons why Shakespeare is so taught in English class. And it's because obviously America was founded by British people, and they feel like, and in the institution of education, they've always felt like, going all the way back from the foundings of school, that, Shakespeare was some important British writer and should be taught to children, and they should remember this, and blah, 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 blah. But this would be like if Adam Neely was to comment on the teaching of Shakespeare, he's going to ignore the history and reasons and explanations for why Shakespeare is so widely taught in America, and just say, no, it's because Shakespeare is a white guy, and this is all the white racial framing of the United States, and this is all in order to solidify white supremacy in America by keeping out, people of color writers out, which is stupid.
This is why, watching this video, it's like there's so many times where you're like, yes, that we should change that. Whoa, yeah, what did you just say?
Right.
Like there's so many agreeable things, and then there's some of these crazy bombs slid in, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, okay.
It's the Hitler technique.
Yes.
Why can't they just change it because it's boring? Why can't they just say, hey, this shit's boring, let's change it?
That I feel like, it's an excellent argument. Especially if you're going to music, if you want to study a specific genre of music. I want to be a jazz player.
Right.
Why are you making me take 4 years? I find classical so boring. If you're going to take 4 years of it, that's their mentality. And you're sitting there and you're going, yeah, I agree with what's kind of some of the things being said here.
Right. And like a friend of ours who learned piano, he was saying that, when he was learning piano, he didn't care at all about classical music. And the thing that interests him was ragtime music. And so because he had a piano tutor who was listening to his preferences and would allow him to learn ragtime music, that's what gave him his love of piano. And so there's a great argument to make that, maybe in school, especially for younger kids, pre-college, that there should be a very wide variety of different musical genres and styles available to children so that they can all find the musical genre they like to play. But so that's for their own interest. It's not because of racism. Okay. And I'm the same thing. It's funny, when I was learning piano, I went to my piano teacher to ask me what I want to play, and I'd whip out the Final Fantasy VII piano book and be like, I want to play this fucking video game music. She's like, all right, go for it.
Video games are based on white supremacy, Sitch. I hope you know that.
Yes. The Final Fantasy series, created exclusively by Japanese people, and the music done by famous Japanese composer, is based on white supremacy. Yes, so it's true.
They're all white. Their flag's half white. I'm just saying.
As you said, what side was Japan
I
on
know.
during World War II?
Practically Nazis.
They were on the Nazi side, everyone. The Nazi side.